Earlier this year, SAP quietly published a document. 2 pages. No press release, no keynote. Most people I work with haven't read it. And I think those 2 pages will change more project roadmaps this year than any product SP has launched. It's called the SAP API Policy. I've spent 11 years building SAP integrations, and I read the whole thing, the policy, SAP's own FAQ, the legal analysis, so you don't have to. In the next few minutes, you know exactly what it says, what the fight around it is about, and what it means for you. I break down changes like this every week. Subscribe if that's useful to you. Let's start from zero, because this matters for everyone, not just developers. An API is a connection point. It's where one program can talk to another program. Here's what that looks like in real life. Your company's webshop sells something. Now the shop has to tell SAP, this order happened. No human types that in. The shop software calls SAP through an API. A warehouse scanner reporting a delivery, same thing. Your travel app handing in an expense, same thing. Every one of those connections runs through an API. An SAP system offers thousands of these connection points. Some are official. SAP lists them in a public catalog with documentation and support. That catalog is called the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, and if an API is listed there, it's a published API. One example, the Business Partner API. That's the official way to read or create customer and supplier records. It's in the catalog. Anyone can look it up. But over the years, people also found unofficial connection points. These are interfaces SAP built for its own internal use, never documented, never promised to anyone. A developer discovers one, sees that it returns exactly the data they need, and builds on it. It works. It has worked for years. It was just never meant for them. Think of them as side doors into the system, doors that were never officially opened. That's a non-published API. The API policy draws one line between those two. In practice, that means 3 buckets. Bucket 1, the published APIs, like that Business Partner API. Those are allowed, documented, and supported. Bucket 2, the non-published APIs, the side doors. Those are off limits. And SAP can change or remove them at any time, without telling anyone. Bucket 3, the interfaces SAP has explicitly banned. And yes, there is a real example. It's called ODP, a data extraction interface. Many third-party analytics tools used it to pull data out of SAP. SAP shut that door, by name. One important exception before anyone panics. If you run SAP on-premise or in a private cloud, the custom ABAP interfaces your own team built are still allowed. That's written into the policy itself. The line is aimed at undocumented SAP internal doors, not at the extensions you build yourself. Now here's the part of Section 1 that almost nobody talks about. And it's the part that creates real work. The policy doesn't just say use published APIs. It says you are required to verify that every API you use is published. Let that sink in. The burden of proof sits with you, not with SAP. Nobody is going to send you a friendly list of which integrations are fine. You have to go look. And there's a trap hiding in SAP's own FAQ. A blog post does not make an API published. A forum answer does not make an API published. Only the official documentation does. So maybe a community post showed your team a clever workaround back in 2019. That post doesn't protect you. It never did. Now to the part that made this policy famous. Section 222. I'll just call it the AI paragraph. The policy prohibits using SAP APIs for, and I'm quoting, autonomous or generative AI systems that plan, select, or execute sequences of API calls. It also bans scraping, pulling data out of the system in bulk. So what does that actually mean? Third-party AI agents are not allowed to work your SAP system on their own. Not Copilot, not a custom agent your team built. Unless, and this is the key word, they come through SAP's approved doors. Joule, Business Data Cloud, the Agent Gateway. Why? SAP's argument has 3 parts, and honestly, the technical core is sound. 1. Volume. A single prompt to an AI agent can fire thousands of API calls. in patterns no ERP system was sized for. 2. Security. Many agent setups connect with one stored key that never expires. That is a real attack surface. 3. Data quality. An agent without business context can write wrong data into the system that runs your payroll and your financial close. And here's what happened next, because the story didn't end with the document. When the policy landed in April, the reaction was loud. Consultants called it lock-in. Partners warned that their own products rely on APIs, SAP never documented. It got loud enough that SAP CEO Christian Klein addressed it personally on the next earnings call. And what he said is worth hearing. It draws the real line. He said, "Customers' data is customers' data. Accessing it stays free. But the process logic, the built-in business know-how inside the ERP, that, SAP says, is SAP's intellectual property, and that they will protect." Notice what changed there, and what didn't. The tone softened, the policy text did not. The document that matters is still the same 2 pages. And this policy has teeth. SAP reserves the right to monitor API usage and to throttle, suspend, or terminate access. Trying to sneak around those controls is explicitly banned too. A proxy, a gateway, custom code, it doesn't matter. Quick question for the comments. And feel free to keep it vague. Does your company run integrations that you suspect use one of those side doors? I read every comment. Next week, I'll pick up the most common situations. So far, so reasonable, right? Here's why half the SAP world spent spring arguing about it anyway. First, the asymmetry. SAP decides which AI systems get access, and SAP's own AI products are on the allowed side of that line. Third-party agents face restrictions that Joule doesn't. And the same thing happens with your data. Large-scale extraction is banned, unless it runs through SAP's endorsed services. One of those is Business Data Cloud, SAP's own data platform. The one SAP is actively selling right now. So what's the approved way to move your data at scale? Through another SAP product. You can call that platform protection. Critics call it lock-in with a security label. Both descriptions fit the same facts. Second, timing. Undocumented APIs aren't an edge case. They're everywhere. One analyst called the policy closing the gate after the horse has bolted. Thousands of live integrations, built over decades, now sit in bucket 2, formally out of bounds. And no grace period has been announced. Third, the legal question. The policy was posted as product documentation, not signed as a contract. So does it even bind your company? That depends on your agreement with SAP, on whether your contract lets SAP add new rules to the documentation after you've signed. Legal commentators are telling clients, go read that clause. I'm not a lawyer, and this is exactly the moment to involve yours. One real reassurance though, where the law requires data export, moving your data, switching providers, keeping records, there the policy explicitly does not apply. European law stays above it. And here's the context most coverage skips. This is not just SAP. Salesforce restricted what third-party AI can do with Slack data. ServiceNow puts hard rate limits on AI agents. Every big platform is drawing the same line. SAP is just the only one that wrote it down as a formal policy. Let's make this practical. 3 situations. If your company runs SAP, this is an audit, not an emergency. Step 1, make a list of every integration that touches SAP. Step 2, for each one, check whether the API it uses is published in the Business Accelerator Hub. Step 3, you don't have to fix everything today. Migrate whenever an integration is touched anyway, during maintenance or an upgrade. Step 4, if no published API exists for your case, request one from SAP, or wrap your access in a small service on BTP, SAP's cloud platform, so the risky part moves out of the core. If you're on public cloud, move faster. You don't control your upgrade schedule. If you build tools that connect to SAP, the message is harsher. Published APIs and endorsed pathways are the only stable ground left. Anything else can now be switched off. And the policy gives SAP the paperwork to do it. And if you're building your career in SAP, I want you to hear this clearly. This policy is good news for you. Every company that runs SAP now needs people who can audit integrations, read API documentation, and move old access onto clean, supported paths. That's new, billable, senior work, and it barely existed a year ago. So here's your assignment for this week. Pick one integration in your company, just one. Open the SAP Business Accelerator Hub and check whether the API it uses is published there. Whatever you find, you'll understand your SAP landscape better than most people in the building. On Friday, I'm breaking down S/4HANA versus ECC, the differences that actually matter. If you want that one, subscribe and I'll see you there.